Tapa Wankayap. This is one of our Lakota ceremonies, and it's kind of a game. Yeah, it's a very sacred ceremony, and unfortunately, people don't do it anymore. And you heard me say the reason why at the beginning about the Christianization process that happened on the reservation. That because of that, most people don't know these things. I like to use this analogy. And I say this about every day, and I hope I do. Hope I don't forget to say that every day. Is that our original belief system? Imagine that as a painting that's 12 feet by 12 feet, or 4 meters by 4 meters, and that this represents our original way, and that when we went through this experience on the reservation where we were not allowed to eat healthy foods, that we were not allowed to speak our language or do our ceremonies, that we were hit physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And then our minds became weak because of this. Remember I said that earlier? And that when the churches came on the reservation, they saw our condition and took advantage of it. Yeah, they learned our ways, yeah, by looking at this painting. And then they said to themselves, they said, you know what, this conflicts with the Bible. So that means it's from the devil. So, to get the Indians to become Christians, they can't just say the whole painting is evil, because that might not work. So what they did was they cut only the 4 corners off this painting, figuratively speaking, okay? And they destroyed the rest, the major portion of the painting. Then these 4 corners, they paste them together, and they draw their own image on it, meaning they put duality in there. So the 4 corners are remnants, tiny fragments of our original way. And then they connect those tiny fragments with duality, which is Christianity as well. Yeah? So whatever elements that are still in there, they Christianized them, they dualized them, they made them good versus evil. The original way does not have good versus evil. Yeah? But they made these 4 corners to become good versus evil, dualistic. Yeah? So then the government also was, split up the reservation into parcels of land, and they split families up like that, yeah, by putting different families on different parcels of land. And so, before that, we always lived in a community, so we were community thinking. But now, after this government act, now Indians are living apart from each other, so it broke that community way of thinking. But Sunday offered an opportunity for Indians to come together, to see each other. So they looked forward to going to church, because that's when they could see their relatives. And in their weakened minds, the priest said, "Here's your Indian way," and they gave us this small piece of paper that consisted of these 4 corners of the original painting, and it has a different image on it, but we don't question it because we're so weak-minded, and we just want to be with our relatives. So we accept it, and we start believing what the priest says, because as long as we show no rebellion, things seem to be less troublesome on the reservation. So they go with the flow, and that's how we became Christianized. Yeah, and so every generation, it becomes more dualistic than the previous one. So the next experience that happened was the boarding school experience. The children were taken away and sent to these boarding schools off the reservations, and there, they were tortured. Even if you spoke about, something from your culture, you were tortured. There were a lot of perverts that worked there, so a lot of children were molested, and a lot of children were killed. And so it's a very traumatic experience. And the kids that made it through, they didn't really survive. They were traumatized. So they live in this victim way, yeah, and they don't want to talk about these things because they were so horrible. Yeah. So when they have children, their children are sent to boarding school too, and they experience the same thing. Then eventually, the boarding schools are done away with, so the children can go to school in their town. But the people still face difficulty in the schools because there's still racist teachers on reservations, white racist teachers, and so they still are getting abused, even if it's covert, it's still abuse. And then nobody's teaching the language because you were punished for it in the past. So here we are 7 generations later, and most Lakota people don't know their language. And whatever Lakota ways they know is only from that little piece of paper this figuratively speaking thing, yeah, that has the 4 corners of the original painting that I was saying earlier. I'm speaking figuratively, okay? And so they only have a tiny remnant, and that remnant is dualistic. It doesn't have the Lakota perspective in it. That's what Indians know today. Yeah? So, like Christianized definitions of words, like Wankayap, this is an organization, and there's more than one. They all have the same name. But the Christians, when they tore up this painting, figuratively speaking, and put these 4 pieces together, the 4 remnants, they changed that definition to mean their Christian God. We don't have a God. We have these organizations. Yeah? So our system is different, but today most Indians don't know that because of this experience that I just told you about. So because of that experience, most people don't know this Tapa Wankayap ceremony. And whatever ceremonies that they do know and perform, they're dualistic. They're dualistic versions. They're not the original versions. Yeah, this is really when people are talking today about, we have to preserve what we have. I don't think so, because what we have is duality. Yeah, and what we have is a remnant of the original thing. And if it's got a dualistic flavor, then it's unhealthy. So we have to preserve instead, what has to happen is a return to that original painting without the duality. So you're not destroying duality, though, you're learning it. You learn how it works so you can alter it. And when you encounter duality, you treat it like a blessing. You learn from it. You treat it like a difficulty, not a blessing. Let me say it again. When you encounter duality, you treat it like a difficulty, and that you get to know it as best as you can, and then you realize maybe you can add something to it and make it healthy, or maybe you can take something away from it, and it becomes healthy, or maybe it's just no good. Yeah, because some things are like that. They're just unhealthy. You just have to let it go, or maybe it's nothing at all. But you take the time to check it out. Yeah. So that's the original way. There's no good versus evil in that thinking. We have to get back to that. That's why this show exists. So this original painting that, figuratively speaking, am I talking about? This teaches you to communicate from your sacred center. Yeah. But remember what I said. What we have instead today is the remnants of that. Yeah, and even then that's dualistic, because the priests drew their own image on there. Yeah, they put those 4 corners together, and those represent the remnants of our original way, and then they dualized it by putting their image on there. Yeah, that's what most Indians call the Indian way. We can't save that, because that's not even original. That was not even made by us. That was bastardized by the priests. And it has duality in it. I don't want to save that. That's not the Indian way. Yeah? So this little piece of paper, symbolically here, this is what most Indians call the Indian way. This is what they perceive as the Indian way, but it's all dualistic. So the ceremonies that they do today are based on that little piece of paper. So when you go to ceremony today, it's duality. It's dualized. It's not the original format. So, communicating from your sacred center, as I said, would be like living by this original 12 by 12 painting, this symbolic 12 by 12 painting, okay? Living in a dualistic way is with using this little remnant from that. The four pieces, yeah, the four corners that are taped together, that dualistic, and then dualized, yeah, by the priest. This is what most Indians are using as the Indian way. They're communicating from that. And that is communicating from their skin color. Yeah, that is communicating from their exterior identity, which is not the important one. That's why there's so much trouble, because it's dualistic, and we end up becoming racist to people who are not Indian, which is really a problem today. Yeah. So when I say we have to return to that original painting, this is living this healthy way, yeah, of what I explained at the beginning of the show. And when you follow that way, it's not about being an Indian. It's about being a grandchild of your grandmother Earth. So it's about being human, and you're communicating from your sacred center. So living by that painting, you're communicating from your sacred center, and you have a connection to the Earth. I mean, you have it open, yeah. But when you communicate as an Indian or as a race, you are closing your communication to the Earth. You're communicating in a dualistic way. So you're going to become racist, ethnocentric, or you judge other cultures by your standards, paternalistic, where you think you know what's right for everybody. And of course, dogma, you're going to say your way is the only way. And that's all creates a us against them perspective, which is duality. So, this is the reason why most Indians who hear my show don't agree with me. Because they're communicating from that little remnant piece of paper that the priest created. Because they forced those pieces to harmonize with the Bible. See? The unhealthiness. So that's what we have to get away from, because that's causing us to hurt ourselves, to abuse ourselves spiritually, because we're not developing emotionally. You cannot develop spiritually until you develop emotionally. And as long as you see yourself as an Indian, if you're Indian, you're not going to develop spiritually, because you're communicating from the wrong area. You're communicating from outside of yourself. You have to communicate from inside yourself, and not just from your heart. You have to use your mind too. You got to use both of them together. Yeah. Then you develop spiritually. Then you develop. You that affects your physical well-being in a healthy way. Body, mind, soul, and heart. All four parts. You need to focus on all four. Then you start to see yourself as a human, as a grandchild of Grandmother Earth. That's more important That's the way the ancestors communicated. Yeah? This Tapa Wankayap is from that original way. This is a game in which a ball is thrown up in the air. The community assembles in the circle, a really big circle. What happens is this: they pick a girl who's a virgin. This ball is decorated in a certain way, and it's I'm not going to give you the directions because some new ager is going to write all this down and can go out and do it and end up, hurting themselves. So I'm just going to discuss the points from it. Okay. This girl, the way they start this, she gets in the center of the circle, and she throws this ball as high as she can, straight up in the air. Then she runs out of there. Yeah. Then everybody else runs in and tries to catch the ball first. Yeah. So all kinds of commotion happen, and people trip over each other and bump into each other. It really gets funny. Yeah. And then whoever catches the ball goes back to the center, and everybody else assembles in the circle again, and then he faces the west direction, and he has to relate what everything means concerning the west. Yeah, the first stage of development, one of the four basic emotions, one of the four parts of the mind, one of the four parts of the soul. Yeah, one of the four groups of the Wamakashka. He has to talk about these things. So then when he's done, ho hechetuelo, he'll say, that's the way it is. Then he throws the ball up as high as he can. He runs out of there so you don't get run over. Then everybody comes in again. Yeah. Everybody's having fun. So whoever catches that, then he or she then faces the north. Yeah, then everybody gets into the circle again. And then this person now talks about the north. Yeah, the things that are representative of that. The second stage of human development, another group of Amakashka, one of the other four emotions, the second part of the soul, the second part of the mind, talking about things like that. And then when he's done or when she's done, he or she will either say ho hechetuelo or ho hechetuwe, and then throw that ball up again and run out of there right away. Everybody runs in, and they're all getting tired and dirty, and it's just getting fun. Yeah. And then whoever catches it does the same thing. Yeah, but that person faces the east, and then talks the same thing. The third stage of physical development, another one of the emotions, the third part of the soul, the third part of the mind, one of the other Wamakashka groups, things like that. And when he or she is done, that person either says ho hechetuelo or ho hechetuwe, and then throws that ball up again and runs out of there, and everybody else runs in, and then that person, whoever catches it now faces the south, and then they talk about the fourth, physical development, the last emotion, the fourth part of the mind, the fourth part of the soul. See, all this is coming from Lakota Star knowledge, and that's not on that little paper that was created by the Christians. Do you see what I mean? This is a really old information. So today most Indians don't know these things. Like I said, today most Indians only know a remnant of that, that remnant that was put together by the priests in the beginning of the reservation, and then dualized. Yeah, so most Indians don't know the ceremony. So then that person completes, by saying ho hechetuelo, or ho hechetuwe, depending if it's a man or a woman. And then that person throws the ball up again. and then runs out of there really fast. And then whoever catches it then faces the west, and then that person talks about our special relationship to the Buffalo Nation. Yeah, because this game was originally played by the Pte Oyate. This is where we come from, under the earth. Yeah, Pte Oyate are human in form, but they're not human. When the first group came on the earth, they developed into human. Ikche Oyate. They changed from Pte Oyate to Ikche Oyate. That's us, humans. Then this group got into trouble, so the second group, the rest of the Pte Oyate came on the earth to help that first group that left. When that second group came out of the ground, they changed into buffalo. That's Pte Chaka Oyate. So that group changes from Pte Oyate to Pte Chaka Oyate. They came to help us. So we used to all play this game under the ground as Pte Oyate. But see, today only the Ikche Oyate can play this because we have arms to throw the ball. The Pte Chaka can't because they have 4 legs. Yeah, so when we do this ceremony today, then we have to do one more time for the Buffalo people because they're our closest relatives. We acknowledge our sacred relationship to each other. We thank them for everything they've given us, which is our family system, our Teoshpai, kinship terms, our food, our homes, our clothes, our cooking utensils, even toys. Everything comes from the buffalo. So we include them in the ceremony because they can't throw the ball. And they originated as Pte Oyate just like we did. So we include them in the ceremony because we come from the same being, which is Pte Oyate. Yeah, so that last person talks about all of this, what I just said, and all of this is done to remind everybody in the camp we are all in this together. And all these things that were spoken today while this game was played, all these things are what make us. Period. Yeah? This is all important. Then it shows that everything is connected just like we are connected to each other. It all begins within. So it's a game of reality begins within, is what it is. It's a really beautiful thing. And then when it's over, then they have a feast, yeah, and then the 5 people who caught the ball, they have to serve everybody, yeah. They're going to serve the food to everybody, and this is their gift, so that the people may live, yeah. It's a wonderful thing, and it involves the community playing together. See, we must, when we work together, we help one another, yeah, we support one another when we're going through difficulty, but we also need to play together because laughter is such an important part of life. We need to do that too. So this is why this game was given to us, so that we can play with each other, play with one another. Yeah? And that binds us closer together again. And this game it reminds how everything is connected. How we live is based on how we learn so that we can love. And this game shows that whole thing. That's what makes it Waka, special, sacred energy. Yeah? So that's the nature of our games. And like I said, it's really done, and it's fun. Yeah, it's a fun thing. And the church has said, hey, This conflicts with the Bible, so we have to take it out. That means it comes from Satan. See me crackers. And in the beginning of the reservation, remember, we were weak-minded people, so we we didn't want any more trouble because we were enduring so much stress in our lives. Yeah, our language was made illegal. Our ceremonies were made illegal. We couldn't eat healthy foods anymore. We were not allowed to. This is the same thing that cults and terrorists do to their new recruits. Deprive them of things that they need so they can so that their recruits become weak-minded and then they can control them. Yeah? That's what the priest did to us too. So holding on to the dualistic Indian way of today is exactly what those priests want us to do, because that keeps us dualistic. What this show is about is returning to the original way of our ancestors. So if you accept that and you start living this way, your descendants are going to thank you. Keep that in mind. Yeah? Always keep that in mind. So, anyway, that's Tapa Wankayap. Really nice ceremony. Ceremonial game. Jeez, people, I wish they would do that again. Yeah? That'd be really nice. I should do that in one of my seminars. Next time I have a seminar, I think I'm going to do that. That's going to be the test. That'll be that'll be the way I'll test my participants to see if they were listening to me or not. Shoot. Anyway, thank you very much for taking time to listen into this show. I really do appreciate it because I really do enjoy speaking with you and sharing this information. And I'm not asking you to agree. You can disagree with me. You can call me whatever you want. Just don't step on my blue suede shoes. Hey. Just don't step on my blue suede moccasins. Shoot. Just don't step on my blue socks.